Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Pinsetter. This is a project that I'm working on. I'm taking a sculpting class. This is actually the final project. This semester is almost over. But it's an interesting challenge that the professor gave us. He wanted us to get into groups and create sculptures based on famous characters from anything. Could be comic book characters, could be movie characters, TV show, video games. So me and my group decided to do Minecraft characters, but make them realistic instead of all pixelated like they are in the game. So I'm doing the zombie, the other guy at my table is doing the skeleton, and the girl at my table is doing a ghast, one of those floaty octopus things. So I was kind of contemplating filming the whole thing or not, and I decided not to because it's kind of a pain to film the whole sculpture process because I'm holding the sculpture like this in front of me and you guys can't even see that. So I would need a tripod, and I'd have to be filming like over my shoulder and holding him in frame the whole time. And I am a noob at sculpting. So basically, I didn't want to do that because this is my first sculpting class. And I really have to move it around a lot, and it's hard to hold him in frame. And I don't have a tripod, so that wouldn't help me at all. So I've been sculpting him, I've been painting him off camera, but now that he's all basically sculpted and painted, I figured I could start filming a little bit. So just to let you guys know, I made this guy out of galvanized steel wire is the frame, the armature frame. And there's plenty of videos on YouTube showing how to do this. You just twist up the wire, shape it into a body. Just look up armature tutorial, wire armature tutorial, and you'll find lots of them. And then I used a 2-part epoxy to give him a base chest and kind of a hip bones. And I also put a little bit of epoxy under his head to start the sculpting on his head. And then I sculpted his head out of, let me focus him a little bit better. And there. Okay, I sculpted his head and hands out of, I could have him scratch his own head to think about it. It's super sculpey. So I used firm super sculpey. Actually, I used the softer on his hands and then firm on his head and his feet. I gave him some sweet shoes, which I haven't painted yet. So that's the color of the firm super sculpey. So now I am down to the process of just adding on a little bit of gloss. This is actually made by the Sculpey brand. Sculpey gloss glaze. I'd show you guys the the label, but I don't want to tip it over. But it's a Sculpey brand gloss glaze. And I got it at Michael's. And I'm going to put some gloss on his eyeball to make it nice and shiny. I just made it white to make it kind of glazed over and creepy looking. This whole character, by the way, his face is based off of a sculpture done by a guy named Monster. Well, I don't know his actual name, but on Instagram, if you look him up, his name is Monster Papa on there, and this guy is amazing. Like I said, I am a total noob at sculpture. This is the first sculpting class I have ever taken, so I have a lot to learn. So I've been looking around a lot to get reference images and stuff. I've never made a zombie before, so I was like, all right, I gotta look some people up. And Monster Papa, if you just type in Google sculpture, zombie sculpture, Monster Papa is one of the first ones that pops up, and he has some awesome stuff. This guy is very talented. So the face is kind of based off of one of his zombies that I really liked, and I was like, all right, cool, that's going to be my reference image. So I'm just putting gloss on areas that I want to look wet. So once this dries, it's going to be clear and very glossy, very shiny, like glass. And it should look very nice. So I want his mouth to be very wet and his eyeball to look very shiny. And his teeth and a little bit on his lips. And maybe a tiny bit going, like running down his chin as if he's drooling. So this whole part I figured would be fairly easy to film for you guys. But the actual sculpting part was not easy to film, so I didn't even attempt it because I knew it was going to be hard. But eventually I'll have to get a tripod and start showing you guys some of the other stuff that I do, because I don't post everything I do to YouTube, especially with art class that I take. Any art classes I take, there's lots of assignments, and I'm on a deadline, so I don't really have time to film them all. But eventually I'll get a tripod, start filming more. Okay, so there's a lot on his lips now, or on his mouth. Now I need to add a little bit to his lips. I painted him with acrylic paint. Bunch of different brands. Okay, that's not too bad. And his hands, I actually had a hand mold for doll making, because me and my buddy about a year ago, we wanted to try and do some stop motion stuff, which is very fun but very difficult. Like if you look up Tim Burton movies and any of those stop motion movies, The Corpse Bride, and there's tons of them. They're awesome though. That whole style of animation is so amazing to me. But it is so difficult. Making the characters is one thing. It's difficult to make the characters, but then you have to make an entire world for them. You know, all the sets. And it's all miniaturized. So, not easy. So, me and my buddy wanted to try and do some stuff. I think I'm going to gloss this eye a little bit too. Me and my buddy wanted to try and mess around with it a little bit, but we didn't get too far. But I did find a company that sold molds for hands, and I ended up buying one online. And so I had that lying around. So I used that to make his hands, his face, and everything. I did this by hand, and I also did his shoes by hand. But his hands were not by hand. They were by mold. So I love the way they turned out, though. It happened to be the right size, you know. They're proportioned pretty close to how they, you know, the size they would be compared to his face and whatnot. So I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so in this video, I think I'm going to be skipping around a little bit, but glossed his face. His hands need a little bit of work. I think I'll add some purples in there to break things up and give a little bit more depth. So I will let that dry. I'll work on his hands. Got to work on his feet, and then we got to start making his body. He needs clothes, and I'm on a time schedule to finish this guy. So we'll see how it goes. Stick around. Okay, so we have made a little bit of progress on this guy. This coat of glaze that I put in his mouth is still drying because I really put a ton of it in there. 'cause I wanted it to look like he's really drooling. I put a little bit down here, seeping out of his neck. His eye is dry, so that's good. I also got some, where did I put it? Here it is. Matte varnish. It's kind of torn, so you can't really read it. But polyurethane matte varnish. So I basically have a gloss and a matte, and I use the gloss on the eyeball, the mouth, and just a few little spots like on the cheeks, the neck, on his fingertips, and on his legs, or his shoes. I wanted them to look like leather pretty much, which is kind of shiny. So polish those up, and for the rest of him, the rest of his head, I put the matte finish, which is a little bit glossy, depending on how thick you put it on. So I went a tiny bit thick to get a tiny bit of gloss out of it, but it also kind of just protects the paint, puts a nice layer on it. So that is what we have so far. Next, I need to work on his clothes. So I don't have a lot of experience with this, but basically what I have to work with is a bunch of batting, which is what you find inside of quilts. So I went to local fabric shop and got a bunch of this, and I'm just gonna start like layering it to fill out his body, and then I gotta make him clothes. And the clothes, hopefully I have enough fabric. I have a couple of swatches from furniture. Let me get them really quick. Okay, these are what I've got. So this Minecraft zombie has a light blue shirt and dark blue pants. And these are swatches from a fabric, Arcom fabric. And basically you would use these to figure out what kind of couch color you want, or chair, or whatever. It's like furniture swatches. So I'm going to be using these, and hopefully I can make some kind of clothing out of them. Not sure if it'll be enough though, so might have to change up the plan on that. But stick around and I'll show you what happens. Another quick update. So this is the batting that I've started to put on. It kind of sticks to itself, which is cool. No need to glue it or anything. But just to double, make sure it's really on there good and it's going to stay put, because I'm going to be using a few smaller pieces on the arms and stuff. I found some, this is like athlete's wrap, I believe is what it's called, or it might be medical wrap, but basically it's a type of tape kind of fabric. It's not sticky, but you would use it to maybe wrap bandages, or like athletes, if they have sore muscles, they could put like a heat pack and then wrap this around it, and it'll make it stick. It's very stretchy, but if you pull it hard enough, it's just going to break, and it's kind of a foamy substance. But I'm going to wrap that around him to really secure it on there. And this is what he's looking like now, starting to get a little bit of a body shape going on. Still needs lots of work, and now I got to start on the clothes. That's definitely going to be the hardest part, because man, I do not sew, and I'm gonna have to look up some YouTube videos or something to figure this out. So wish me luck. All right, you guys, so here we are a couple hours later. Finally finished his clothes, and to do his clothes I just became real good friends with a glue gun. I really didn't want to try and sew the whole thing because I got zero experience with sewing. So the glue gun worked out. The edges are bad, but that's perfectly okay, because I took a razor blade. I actually took a scalpel, and I just like hacked away at his clothes because I wanted them to be really tattered looking. So it's perfect. I like it. I'm very happy with him. So that is him. I might be making more sculpture videos in the future. Look at him. It looks like he's the one doing all the talking. Be sure to subscribe. I post new videos every week. Actually, twice a week. I'm posting Sundays and Wednesdays. So keep an eye out for those. And thanks for watching. And I will see you next time.